What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today I'll be going through my top Week 6 streamers, players at the quarterback, tight end, defensive positions that are owned in less than 50% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues that can go out and get you the dub in your Week 6 matchup. So that if you weren't lucky enough to get part early in your drafts on guys like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, etc., that you still have a viable option that you can get for point production this week. If you guys enjoy content like this and are interested in watching more, make sure you leave a like down below. Comment your favorite streamer of the week. Let's try to get this video to over 150 likes. So if you are enjoying, you are watching, make sure you leave a like down below. I'll try to keep this as brief and concise as possible. Before we get into the top 3 quarterbacks, as always, though, we got to hit the intro. All right, starting off with the quarterback position, we got the number 1 streamer of the week with Geno Smith, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, going to play the Arizona Cardinals at home, 36% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And when it comes to Geno Smith, he's coming off 2 straight 30-plus fantasy point outings, and he's currently the quarterback 6 in all of fantasy football. I really don't know what to make of, this random 32-year-old age breakout from Geno Smith, but he genuinely looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and it looks like he's having a Ryan Tannehill-esque, late career type of breakout. That's what we've seen from Geno. People might see the stats and think, oh, maybe he's just getting lucky, broken plays or something like that. Maybe that's why he's putting up his production. No, like his production right now is genuinely coming from really, really good quarterback play with Geno Smith. And I don't think anything that we've seen in the past 2 weeks, especially from those 2 elite receivers, is going to stop him from building off those 2 performances against a Cardinals defense that has really ceded points to the quarterback position, bottom 10 in terms of points per game allowed to the quarterback position. And when we're looking at this matchup, high projected over under at 50.5 in this matchup, interdivisional matchup between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I expect that Geno Smith-led Seahawks offense to be able to put up a fight against the Cardinals, expecting a super, super high-scoring outing in this game. So 4 p.m. slate, off to a nice start. This game should be an absolute barn burner. You want stock of Geno Smith if obviously you don't have a guy like Kyler Murray on the other side. Next quarterback is going to be Carson Wentz, quarterback of the Washington Commanders at Chicago on Thursday Night Football, rostered in 46% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues. And when it comes to Carson Wentz, to put it simply, we're just running it back after an impressive Week 5 performance. We've seen this year from that Commanders offense, 40-plus passing attempts in each of his games in Weeks 1 to 4, fell just shy at the 38 attempt mark. And with Carson Wentz, the volume has clearly been there. They want to throw the ball all over the yard in Washington. So while Wentz has had his down moments this year, his ups are still amongst some of the best in the entire NFL. But because he isn't playing that level of defense, obviously Dallas and Philly, 2 of the best in the NFL, I still think the Commanders are going to be able to move the ball on this team. I still think the Commanders are going to be able to threaten the Bears defense. And again, it's not a great option from a peripheral standpoint. Again, on the road, underdog, low over under, but I think Wentz, again, outside of those 2 games, has played extremely well. And I do think that Washington goes on the road and steals the W this week against the Bears. I know the record wouldn't say so, 2-3 versus 1-4. I know the recent play wouldn't say so, but I do genuinely think that Washington's offense gets back on track in an easier relative matchup. Final quarterback streamer of the week is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, goes to play the Atlanta Falcons on the road, 26% roster in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And he struggled in his first start, obviously, against the Broncos. You guys all would have saw that primetime game where each of the Broncos and the 49ers looked like they wanted to give the game to the other team. But since that game, since the 49ers game against the Broncos, Jimmy has looked relatively consistent and stable in every single outing since then. Now he faces obviously a Falcons team that has conceded 20-plus points in each of their games this year. San Francisco's a 5.5-point road favorite against the Falcons D that has conceded the 10th most points to the quarterback position thus far this year. He's not a sexy option. He's not a flashy option. He's not going to have a ton of volume. He's not going to have any real rushing contribution at all. But I do think with the efficiency and the weapons at his array that Jimmy Garoppolo could have a very solid fantasy outing, maybe 18, 20, 22 type of points. I do see being in the range of outcomes for Jimmy G going up against Atlanta Falcons defense. Next position, we go to the tight end spot. Number 1 tight end stream of the week is going to be Hayden Hurst, tight end of the Cincinnati Bengals, going to play the New Orleans Saints on the road, 32% roster in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And the reason why I love Hayden Hurst, and he's basically become a focal point every single week in terms of this show, is that He has an 84% route participation this past week, and he's been, again, that team's consistent tight end one in snaps each game this year. He's been extremely involved for a Cincinnati offense that needs to keep the ball and needs to keep drives going, and Hayden Hurst has done that very efficiently. In terms of the tight end two realm, where we don't know what's going to go on a week-to-week basis based off volatility of the position, we are targeting decent tight ends with good roles on good offense. I think that's a recipe for streaming the tight end position, and Hayden Hurst basically checks off every single box. Very good role, potentially good offense with Cincinnati. And while he's, not the most athletic or not the most talented option, has shown that he could at least command targets in that red zone goal line type of area. So I think Hayden Hurst is a strong top 15 level play this week. Next play is going to be Taysom Hill, tight end of the New Orleans Saints, going to play the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, 32% rostered for Taysom Hill. And it's the other side of this matchup. I talked about Hayden Hurst, but Taysom Hill is probably the biggest wild card really in all of fantasy football. Obviously, you're going to be designating him as your tight end, but he's really only played 10% and 16% of the routes in each of the last two games. What Taysom Hill does in fantasy, I really can't describe. He's like this pseudo, H-back, quarterback mixture, but he'll have a highly volatile range of outcomes on any given week. But not many tight ends can match that ceiling range of outcome that Taysom Hill has. There's a good chance, maybe he only puts up 2 points, 3 points this week, but his ceiling, like we saw this past week, is a legitimate tight end one overall type of game. So we chase the ceiling, especially in tight end two realm, a tight end that can legitimately win me a week. Taysom Hill has that in his range of outcomes. If anything were to happen to Andy Dalton in this one, guess who's going in a quarterback? If anything were to happen to Alvin Kamara in this one, guess who's getting some red zone carries? Taysom Hill is the ultimate Swiss Army knife. And again, while he's not the most consistent option, while he's not the most reliable option, has a legitimate ceiling that can downright dominate your matchup, like I said. Third tight end is going to be Evan Ingram, tight end of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going to play the Indianapolis Colts on the road, 24% roster in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, 84% route participation like Hayden Hurst for the Jacksonville Jaguars offense in week 5 for Evan Ingram. He saw his highest target volume of the entire season this past game, commanding 10 targets in that Jaguars game against Houston. He's dominated snaps. He's dominated routes of the Jacksonville tight end core. And as he continues to gain trust for Trevor Lawrence, he could be a fringe top 15 tight end rest of the season. I think he can be in that high tight end 2, low tight end 1 type of range when it comes to Evan Ingram and his rest of season value. On to defense. My number one defensive stream of the week is going to be the Indianapolis Colts, going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, a 33% rostered Indianapolis defense on Yahoo. In this game, we see a low implied over-under for a favored team when it comes to the Indianapolis defense. I like the talent and overall ceiling, of course, from Jacksonville on the offensive end, but they've shown that they can be an extremely volatile offense on a week-to-week basis. We saw a few weeks ago they put up 38 against a tougher Chargers defense, and then they put up 6 at home against a struggling Texans defense. So I'm a bit worried about streaming Indianapolis in case that Jacksonville offense does indeed wake up, but options are slim this week, and I think trusting the process again of low implied over-under favorites, which is exactly what Indianapolis represents in this game. I think the Jacksonville defense could also be a very solid play on the other side of this matchup. I expect some ugly football and some low-scoring football to be played over in Indianapolis, similar to the Denver Broncos-Indianapolis Colts game we saw this past Thursday night. Next defensive streamer is going to be the Cleveland Browns to play the New England Patriots at home, 16% roster in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And it's risky given how well Bill Belichick schemed for and how well Bailey Zappi played this past week. A 29-0 win over the Detroit Lions. But I do trust the Browns in being able to take care of Zappi and the Pats offense this week. I'm siding again with the favorite home team that has the defensive talent that can absolutely stymie this Pats offense. 42.5 over-under in this game, 3-point home favorites. I'm sticking with the process, like I said. Final streaming matchup of the week is going to be the Washington Commanders traveling on the road to play the Chicago Bears, 10% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And I like the Commanders D this week going up against obviously a volatile Bears offense. I think you can also consider the Bears D as well, given the volatility of Washington, like I mentioned. But I do think it's much more plausible that we see the Commanders offense get back on track than it is for Chicago to just get on the track, period. The Bears offense is still one of the most dysfunctional in the entire NFL. Washington has a real chance at being able to dominate up front against a Chicago Bears offensive line that has allowed 18 sacks or 3.6 per game in the 5 games that they have played, despite being below 100 pass attempts on the season. 88 total passing attempts, and they've allowed 18 sacks as a team when it comes to Chicago Bears. I have a good amount of confidence, of course, on the Commanders getting right in this one against the Bears, and I do trust that their front can cause absolute havoc in that Bears backfield. So I really trust the Commanders this week. Thursday Night Football, at least it gives you a reason to watch that game. But either way, if you made it to the end of this video a little longer than usual, make sure you leave a like down below. Like I said, try to get this video to about 150 likes and subscribe to the channel on the road to 20 20,000 subscribers. As always, appreciate you guys for that consistent support. But either way, enjoy the week. Good luck in your matchups. Peace out.
Wire me the money.